Welcome back to another videos on the series of the CFA Level 1 equity methods. So in this video, I would like to tell you about the perpetuity formula, which is a very useful building block in understanding valuation. And what I would like to do that is give you some intuition on that, give you the derivation. You probably won't need it for the exam, the derivation, but I think it's useful that you understand the derivation. And finally, I want to give you some examples on how we can make use of it to make quick equity valuations. Okay, so let's start with some intuition. So imagine that you have a company that you'd like to value today, okay, but you know that in year one is going to give you, let's say, maybe 10 million, and in year two is going to give you 10 million. In year three is going to give you 10 million. You can think of this giving you as dividends and imagine that this will continue forever in perpetuity. Okay, and the question is, if I get a perpetual, a constant stream of cash flow in the future, how much is that worth today? So what's the perpetuity formula for that? And you will find a perpetuity formula here that said the price, or the net present value, if you like, the net present value, or the price of this will be the coupon that you're receiving, the 10, divided by the interest rate. You desire the opportunity cost of capital. So if that interest rate is, let's say, 5%, then this 10 million will be worth 200 million. And an intuitive way that I have to describe this is to effectively think of this as interest payments that a bank is giving you. If these are interest payments that a bank is giving you, then your balance, right, how much money you put in year one times the interest payments must be equal to the coupons. That's a much more intuitive way to remember it, right? So effectively, if I were to tell you that you've put your money into a bank account that earns 5%, okay, and you're getting 10 million in interest every year out of that bank, what must be your initial balance? Well, in that case, you would just say, well, my balance times the 5% must equal my coupon of 10 million, and therefore my balance is equal to 10 over the 5% is equal to 200 million. Okay, so the perpetuity formula is very intuitive the moment that you think of it as the interest rate is the return that you're getting on your money. Think of the bank. A bank is giving you that interest rate. And through that perpetuity formula, we can start making some valuation. Now, you don't need this for the CFA exam, but I think it's actually quite useful, and we can do this very quickly to derive the perpetuity formula, right? The intuition is more than enough, but the derivation is also simple. So what is the sum that we're interested in? Well, is the net present value of all future cash flow. Well, it's the first 10 that we're getting in a year's time, and it's important to realize that perpetuity must be that the first payment is coming in a year's time. Then what about the second payment? 10 over 1 plus r to the power of 2, and this continues. Okay. Now, I don't know what this sum is, but I can do something quite clever. I can multiply this sum by 1 over 1 plus r. And you might say, well, I still don't know what this sum is. Right? It will actually just increase all the powers here by 1. So I will have 10 over 1 plus r to the power of 2 plus 10 over 1 plus r to the power of 3, and so on and so forth. Now, I still do not know what this is, okay? But the really clever thing is that I have something that I don't know. The first term that I don't know. I have a second expression that I also don't know, but I happen to know the difference in those. So if I take this, okay, 1 over 1 plus r is a number that's less than 1. Therefore, this unknown here, it's smaller than the first one. So this is the bigger one, and I'm going to take away a smaller one. But the nice thing about this is that when I put minuses on all of these, the second element here cancels with the first. The third element here cancels with the second, right? Etc., etc., etc. And the last element, which is 10 discounted by 1 plus r to the power of some very, very large number, will effectively be negligible or will go to 0. So I can ignore the fact that I'm going to be left with one less thing to cancel out. And therefore this difference, which is s, 1 minus 1 over 1 plus r, is simply equal to this first term here. which is 10 over 1 plus r. And you can see that here I'll make the same denominator. So let me just go ahead and do that. S times, instead of 1, I'll do 1 plus r over 1 plus r minus 1 over 1 plus r is equal to 10 over 1 plus r. The 1 plus r and 1 plus r is a common divisor, so I can cancel that out. And I'm left at the sum that I didn't know times the 1 and minus 1 comes out, times r is equal to that 10, which is exactly that intuition that we started off building. And therefore, the sum that we're interested in, or the perpetuity, is simply equal to the coupon divided by r. Okay? So we've covered some intuition. We did the derivation. Now the final thing that we have to do is to make quick equity valuation on this. So for example, if we take a company like Apple, for example, Apple makes around 100 billion in net income. And that belongs to the holders or the shareholders or the equity holders of the company. And say, for example, you believe conservatively or not, depending on what you believe about Apple, that this will be a nice model to value Apple and to assume that in the foreseeable future, Apple will give their shareholders 100 billion. Okay? If you look at long-term interest rates currently, in May 2026, long-term interest rates on government bonds are close to maybe 4 or 5%. Okay, so we might say that if I think that this is conservative, if I think that Apple's going to throw at me about 100 billion every year in the foreseeable future, and what people demand for sort of like risk-free money of some sort, right? Now, of course, Apple is not risk-free, but maybe you believe that 100 billion is fairly risk-free, or you think of that as a good approximation to equity valuation, you might say that I'm going to divide this by 5% or 0.05, and this is going to give me a 2 trillion valuation. Okay? So that could be one uh, way that you could make a quick valuation about a company on what do you think that that company is worth, and the perpetuity formula works really well to do that. So in the next video we will talk about something else. We will say, well, Apple doesn't actually pay me this 100 billion, so they retain some of this 100 billion and invest it on the shareholders' behalf. And we would like to ask, how does that change? How does that change the optimal decision of the shareholders? With that, I'll close it there. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you on the next video.